My name is Elise. I'm 42, and I used to be the kind of woman who believed she could hold everything together, her marriage, her blended family, her sense of self. I was wrong. And I guess I'm saying this now because the truth has been chewing at me like a slow rot. It's not about what happened that night, not really. It's about how everything led up to it, the way love twisted into obligation, how affection dried up into routine, and how I disappeared somewhere along the way. I used to feel alive with Daniel. My husband. My second husband. We met when I was 36, a couple of years after my divorce. He was kind, warm in that quiet, constant way. His touch back then? God, it used to feel like safety. Like gravity. He'd put his hand on the small of my back in the grocery store, or brush my hair behind my ear when I was talking. Not performative. Just him. We made love like we were grateful for each other. Like we knew what it was like to feel unwanted and were desperate to never feel that again. But time does this thing. It softens the edges of passion, then forgets to stop softening. Now it's like we're roommates in a very polite marriage. He still touches me, a hand on my shoulder when he passes me in the kitchen, a kiss goodnight that barely brushes skin, but there's no heat. No curiosity. Just contact. The kind you have with someone who assumes you'll always be there. The house is always too quiet now, even when it's full. Daniel works late. Says it's the merger, but I think we both know he's avoiding me, or maybe we're avoiding each other. I've asked him, gently, if he's okay. He says, of course, babe. Just tired. Then he'll pull me into a hug that feels like he's holding a pillow, something soft and familiar. Not something he wants. And I hate that I miss being wanted. He still sleeps close, curled toward me, but it's muscle memory. He hasn't reached for me in months. Hasn't looked at me like he used to, like I was something that stirred him. I don't even know what I stir in him now. Guilt, maybe. Or just a sense of duty. There was this moment, a few weeks ago. It keeps echoing in my mind. We were on the couch, watching some show we'd probably rewatched 3 times. I leaned my head on his shoulder, just wanting to feel something warm. He put his arm around me, not tight, not tender. Just there. His thumb absently traced a pattern on my arm, and for a second I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd kiss me. Like he used to. Like he meant it. But instead, he shifted slightly and said, "You're cold, huh?" Then got up to grab me a blanket. It was a kind gesture. Thoughtful, in a way. But it broke something in me. I didn't want warmth. I wanted him. I wrapped the blanket around myself like armor. Pretended it was fine. Pretended that the cold wasn't coming from the space between us. And then there's Liam. My stepson. Daniel's son from his first marriage. He's 24. Been living with us again since grad school let out, just until he finds a place, he says. And I know what you're thinking, and no, it wasn't like that at first. I've known him since he was a gangly, quiet teenager who barely said 10 words in a row. But he's grown now. Tall, confident. More emotionally present than his father's been in years, if I'm being honest. I started noticing how he looked at me, not like a boy, but a man. Not with obligation or detachment, but with interest. Appreciation. At first, I dismissed it. Told myself I was projecting, starved for attention. But then the way he spoke to me, lingered around me, it shifted. And one night, I saw it plain in his eyes. He wanted all of me. That was the moment I realized something had changed, not just in him, but in me. Because instead of fear or outrage, what I felt was terrifying in its own right. I felt seen. And God help me, I didn't want to look away. Daniel's a trauma surgeon. That's how we met, ironically, when I brought my sister to the ER after a bike accident. He stitched her up and made me laugh while she cried, and I remember thinking, how can a man carry that much grief in his job and still be so light? That lightness used to be what I loved most about him. Now, it feels like another wall I can't get through. When Daniel comes home, his scrubs are wrinkled, his breath heavy with antiseptic and exhaustion. He drops his keys in the bowl by the door, kisses my forehead like I'm a houseplant, and collapses onto the couch. I try to ask about his day. He grunts something vague and pats the cushion next to him. "Come sit with me," he says. I do. He throws an arm around me and pulls me close, like a habit. But there's no seeing in it. No reaching. He thinks the touch is enough. That if we spoon in bed, or if he slides his hand up my back while I'm cooking, the rest will fix itself. But his touches feel like they're checking off a list. He hasn't asked how I feel in weeks. Months maybe. Last night, I tried. Really tried. We were in bed, the lights out, his arm heavy across my waist. I whispered, "I miss us." He pressed his lips to my neck, murmured, "I'm here, babe," and slid his hand down my hip like it was an answer. I froze. Not because I didn't want him, I did. But because I needed to be heard before I could be touched. I rolled away gently. "Not tonight, okay?" He didn't say anything. Just sighed, turned onto his back. I stared at the ceiling, blinking hard. The silence was louder than any fight. This morning, he brought me coffee in bed like he always does. Thoughtful. Reliable. But we didn't talk about last night. Or the night before. He doesn't push. And I resent him for it, for the way he lets things slide, for the way he doesn't fight for me anymore. I stood in the kitchen later, still in my robe, pouring oatmeal into a bowl. Liam walked in, barefoot, shirtless, his damp hair curling at the ends. He grinned. "Still make the cinnamon kind?" he asked, peering into my bowl. I nodded. Creature of habit. He leaned on the counter, watching me too long. "You always smell like vanilla in the morning," he said. His voice was quiet but deliberate. It was such a small thing. A nothing comment. But it made my chest clench, because it noticed me. Something I hadn't felt in so long. "Don't flirt," I said, trying to keep it light. "Who says I'm flirting?" he asked. His eyes didn't move. "Maybe I just notice things your husband doesn't." I dropped the spoon. It clattered into the sink with an embarrassing crash. I felt my face flush as I turned away. "That's not appropriate, Liam." He didn't apologize. Didn't blush. Just said, calmly, "I know." I couldn't tell if he meant "I know it's not appropriate," or "I know your husband doesn't notice." Either way, it rattled me. Because he wasn't wrong. Later that day, I tried again with Daniel. We were in the laundry room, folding towels. So domestic. So lifeless. I looked at him, really looked at him, and said, "Do you ever feel like you're not touching me the way I need to be touched?" He blinked. "I thought you didn't want me to." "No," I said. "I want you to want me." He looked confused. Like I was speaking another language. "But I do. That's why I try." "You try," I said, folding the towel too tightly, "but it's like you don't see me." He dropped his hands to his sides. "Elise, I work 12-hour shifts saving lives. I come home, I bring you coffee, I hold you every night. What more do you want from me? I want you to stop holding me like I'm just there, Daniel. I want you to ask me what I need instead of assuming you already know." He looked down, exhaled sharply. "I don't have the energy for games." And there it was. He thought this was a game. I felt something in me go quiet. Later that evening, Liam walked past me in the hallway. As he passed, his hand lightly grazed my lower back, so slight, I could have pretended it didn't happen. But I didn't. Because it didn't feel like a demand. It felt like attention. And suddenly, I didn't know who I was anymore. Daniel came home early tonight. That used to be a gift, a little surprise that meant we'd have dinner together, maybe wine, maybe even something spontaneous. Now it feels like pressure. Like an invisible clock starts ticking the moment he walks through the door, counting down to the moment he reaches for me. He walked into the kitchen while I was chopping vegetables. "Something smells amazing," he said, and came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. I tensed without meaning to. He kissed my neck, soft at first, then with more intention. I tried to relax, but my body stiffened. It felt rehearsed, like we were both playing a part. His hand slid down to the waistband of my leggings, and I flinched. "Sorry," he said quickly, pulling back. "Didn't mean to startle you." "I'm just in the middle of something," I muttered, gesturing at the cutting board. "Don't want to slice my finger off." He half laughed, trying to brush it off, but I saw it in his eyes, the way it landed wrong. Another rejection he didn't understand. Another wound he wouldn't say out loud. Later, after dinner, he tried again. I was putting away dishes when he slapped my butt lightly, playfully. It used to make me giggle. Tonight, it made me go cold. I didn't turn around. I just said, flatly, "Don't." He paused. "Don't what?" "That." A beat of silence. "I'm just messing around, Elise. We used to be able to laugh." "I'm not laughing now," I said, quieter than I meant. He dropped the act then, the lightness, the effort. His voice was lower when he said, "So what's the new rule? I can't touch my wife unless I ask permission, like I'm a guest in my own house?" I turned to face him. "I just want it to mean something, Daniel. I want to feel wanted, not handled." "I do want you," he said, stepping closer. "But every time I try, you pull away." "Because I do. And I hate that I do. I hate that I've become the kind of woman who overthinks a kiss, who stiffens at a touch she once craved." He tried one more time. That night, in bed, he turned toward me slowly, gently. Like he knew I was a rabbit on the edge of bolting. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, let his fingers trail down my arm. "I miss you," he said softly. My chest ached. I wanted to respond. I wanted to feel warmth in his touch. But I just lay there, still. He leaned in, kissed me. Warm lips. Familiar lips. But I didn't feel anything. No spark. No pull. Just empty compliance. When his hand moved down to my waist, I caught it, not harshly, but enough. "Not tonight." Daniel pulled back, clearly wounded but trying to mask it. He turned over without another word. I stared at the ceiling long after his breathing evened out. I didn't cry. I just lay there, trying to imagine what it would take to feel desired again, to feel like me again. And all I could think was, why does everything have to turn into sex? It started with dinner. Just a simple Thursday night meal, pasta, garlic bread, a bottle of red we hadn't touched since Christmas. Daniel lit a candle like it was some kind of peace offering. I noticed he wore the sweater I once told him made his eyes look deeper. It felt like he was trying. Like he wanted the version of us that still worked. But I was already frayed before we sat down. My nerves worn raw by a million tiny moments I hadn't let myself feel. Liam wasn't home. Out with friends. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel poured the wine, held up his glass. "To us," he said. And something in me cracked. To what about us? I said, my voice sharper than I meant. The silence? The pretending? The way we sit across from each other like polite strangers? His brow furrowed. Elise, no, I said, my chest tightening. Let's not toast to us. Not until we talk about what us even is anymore. He set his glass down. I'm trying, okay? I thought this would be nice. That's the problem, I snapped. You think candles and wine fix everything. But you don't see me. Not really. He leaned back, defensive now. I show up. I come home to you every night. I bring you coffee. That's not the same, I said, my voice breaking. Being here physically isn't the same as being with me. I stood abruptly, chair legs scraping against the floor. You don't ask me how I am. You don't notice when I'm slipping away. You just keep reaching for sex like it's the glue that'll hold this together, but it's not. It hasn't been for a long time. His face went blank. So this is about the sex. No, Daniel, I said, pacing now. This is about everything. It's about feeling like a shadow in my own marriage. About feeling more visible to your son than I do to my own husband. The words were out before I could stop them. Silence fell like a guillotine. Daniel blinked. Once. Slowly. What did you just say? I froze, breath caught in my throat. I didn't mean, you feel visible to Liam? His voice was low, dangerous. What the hell does that mean? I pressed a hand to my forehead, heart pounding. I didn't mean it that way. He sees me. That's all. Daniel stood, jaw clenched, the air between us thick and hot. You're telling me I come home every night, exhausted from saving people's lives, and he's the one who sees you, he said bitterly. Jesus, Elise. It's not his fault, I said quickly. It's not like that. I would never, but you thought about it, he said, voice shaking. You just admitted it. I sat back down hard, overwhelmed suddenly by everything, the room spinning, the weight of his gaze, the sting of my own betrayal. I buried my face in my hands and started to cry. Not quiet, graceful tears, the kind of sobbing that comes from a place too deep to explain. I don't know what's wrong with me, I choked. I don't know why I feel like I'm vanishing. I just want to be wanted again. Really wanted. Not out of routine. Not because it's Thursday. I want to feel something. Daniel didn't move. Didn't come toward me. Didn't say anything. When I finally looked up, his eyes were glassy, his lips a tight line. And I could tell, not from what he said, but from what he didn't, that something between us had ruptured. After he left the room, I sat there alone, my food cold, the candle still burning down to nothing. And I hated myself. Not just for what I said, but for the part of me that meant it. I never wanted to hurt him. I never planned any of this. But deep down, I think I knew, from the very first time Liam looked at me like a woman instead of a stepmother, that some line had been crossed. And I didn't know how to uncross it. It's been 12 days since the dinner. Since I said too much, and not enough, all at once. The house has taken on a kind of quiet that feels personal, like it's grieving us in its own way. Daniel still comes home every night. Still puts his keys in the bowl by the door, still showers before bed. But he doesn't kiss my forehead anymore. Doesn't linger in the kitchen or make space for me on the couch. I miss him. I miss the sound of him humming while brushing his teeth. I miss how he used to squeeze my hand under the table when something awkward happened. I even miss his tired, distracted kisses, because at least they meant he tried. Now, he doesn't try at all. I catch him watching me sometimes when he thinks I'm not looking. Not angry. Not cold. Just distant. Like he's standing behind glass. Like he's trying to figure out who I became and when it happened. And the worst part is, I don't know either. He's hurting. I can see it in the slump of his shoulders, in the way he leaves the laundry unfolded on the couch, something he's never done in 5 years of marriage. I found a half-drunk glass of whiskey in his office yesterday. He doesn't drink on weeknights. He's not the villain. He never was. He was tired. Distracted. But he always came home. Always held space for me, even if it wasn't the right kind. I just stopped knowing how to ask for what I needed. And somewhere along the line, I started looking for it in the wrong direction. Liam's been keeping his distance, too. No more casual brushes in the hallway. No more flirtatious glances over breakfast. It's like he sensed the tension and chose to disappear from it. I'm relieved. And also, ashamed to admit, a little disappointed. Not in him. In myself. I miss feeling seen. But I miss being safe even more. Yesterday, Daniel passed by me in the hallway and said, "I've got a double shift tomorrow." His voice was tight. Dull. And when I replied, "Okay, stay safe," I sounded like a stranger. We slept inches apart that night. A foot between us that felt like a canyon. I laid on my side, eyes open, listening to his breath. And I ached, not for his body, but for the space his heart used to take up inside mine. I remember when we first started dating, how he'd stay up late with me just to hear about my day. How he'd bring me takeout and kiss my eyelids when I cried over stupid things. That man is still here. He didn't disappear, he just faded under the weight of our silence. And maybe I did too. I don't know if we can get back to what we were. I don't know if I deserve to ask for that. But I know this, I'm not ready to walk away. Not yet. Not without saying everything. Not without telling him that I'm scared. That I'm lost. That somewhere along the way, I started confusing desire with validation, and I'm still untangling what that means. Tonight, when he gets home, I'll try. Not with candles or wine or a kiss. But with words. The right ones this time. If he's willing to listen. Daniel came home later than usual. I was waiting, not because I had a speech planned, but because something in me knew this was the night to speak or stop trying. He walked in, hair damp from the rain, jacket slung over one shoulder. He looked surprised to see me sitting on the couch in the dark. "Hey," he said cautiously. "Hey." He stood there for a moment, then set his bag down, walked past me into the kitchen, and came back with a glass of water. He didn't sit. Just stood, like he wasn't sure if the room still welcomed him. "I want to talk," I said quietly. "If you can." He nodded, slow. "Yeah." I didn't launch into a monologue. I just looked at him and let the truth find its shape. "I miss you. Not just what we were, but you. The you who used to look at me like I mattered. Like I was more than a habit." He swallowed. "I've been failing, I know." I shook my head. We both did. I stopped asking for what I needed, and then started needing it from places I shouldn't have. His face tightened. But he nodded. "I said things I didn't mean," I added. "But some of it I did mean. I've been feeling invisible. And that's not your fault. But it became your silence." He sat down across from me, elbows on his knees. "I didn't know how far we were slipping. I thought you needed space. And when I gave it, you disappeared further." We sat in that shared grief for a moment. Neither of us crying. Just heavy. "I'm not proud of how I got lost," I said finally. "I'm not proud I didn't notice," he replied. It wasn't some magical breakthrough. No grand reconciliation. Just two people staring at the wreckage and deciding if it was still worth rebuilding. After a while, I leaned toward him. Can I sit closer? He nodded. I slid next to him on the couch and rested my head lightly on his shoulder. His body was stiff at first, then softened. His arm wrapped slowly around me, not possessive, not expectant, just there. We stayed like that for a long time. Not speaking. Not fixing anything. Just existing in the same emotional weight, quietly. Before we went to bed, he kissed my forehead. That was it. No reach for more. No assumptions. Just skin and warmth and something like kindness. When I climbed into bed, he didn't follow right away. He slept on the couch that night. And oddly, I didn't take it as a punishment. I took it as space. Gentle space. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something new. Or the soft ending of something old. You want to know what the hardest part is? It's not the silence. Or the distance. Or even the guilt. It's the not knowing when, exactly, I stopped being someone I recognized. My name is Elise, and I'm 42, and I thought I knew what love looked like. I thought if I stayed loyal, stayed present, if I chose someone every day, that it would be enough. But it turns out love isn't a decision you make once. It's a decision you make again, and again, even when it's inconvenient. Even when it's not returned the way you hoped. I thought I was immune to temptation. That age and marriage and responsibility wrapped me in armor. But the truth is, when someone looks at you like you matter, really matter, it can undo you. Especially if you haven't seen that look in a very long time. That moment with Liam, that gaze, that charged silence between us, it wasn't about him. Not really. It was about me. About the woman inside me who still needed to feel visible. Who still wanted to be chosen, not just kept. It scared me. How easy it was to crave the attention. How easy it was to let a compliment fill in for emotional intimacy I hadn't felt in years. And what's worse, I almost mistook that craving for love. But it wasn't love. It was loneliness dressed up in heat. And maybe that's one of the hardest lessons I've learned, that desire and love aren't the same thing, even if your body can't tell the difference. Desire is a spark, intoxicating, fleeting. Love is the fire you have to keep feeding, even when the wood is damp, even when the wind won't cooperate. Daniel and I, we're not where we used to be. I don't know if we'll ever get back there. But he listened. He stayed. Not in the easy way, not with sex or gestures or apologies. He stayed by giving me space. Letting me speak without fixing. Letting me cry without walking away. That means something. No, it means everything. We haven't had some grand reconciliation. No big declarations, no overnight transformation. Just small moments. A hand brushing mine. A question that waits for a real answer. A hug in the kitchen that doesn't lead anywhere, and that's the point. It doesn't have to lead anywhere. We're learning how to touch each other without expectation. And I'm learning how to want someone without needing to be saved by them. I still think about that night. When Liam said what he said, I want all of you. And for a second, something in me woke up. Not lust. Not even temptation. It was the shock of being seen. That moment showed me how far I'd drifted from my own life. But it also showed me a line I never want to cross. Not because I'm afraid of judgment, but because I'm afraid of what it would say about who I've become. I want to want better things. Kinder things. Things I can carry in daylight. Desire isn't the enemy. But it's not the answer either. The answer is something quieter. Slower. It's asking for what you need, even when your voice shakes. It's choosing someone again, including yourself. Especially yourself. So if you're still listening, maybe you're where I was. Tired. Disconnected. Wondering if it's too late. It's not. But you have to stop lying to yourself about what you want. And you have to stop blaming everyone else for not giving it to you. I thought I was falling out of love. But really, I was falling out of honesty. And maybe, just maybe, finding my way back to it is the real love story here.